Well, here's a video from a site that I've honestly never really heard of, justthenews.com. Doesn't look like it's some kind of spammy, you know, sensational, hit piece kind of a site. I see most popular articles on their site. House Republicans considering criminal referrals against Mueller. Prosecutors. Declassified FBI memos undercut Mueller team claims that Papadopoulos hindered Russia probe. CDC says coronavirus outbreak inevitable. U.S. markets plunge. So this one, ex-FBI unit chief blows the whistle on Comey, McCabe over warrantless spying. The FBI agent who ran the Bureau's warrantless spying program said Wednesday he warned ex-director James Comey and his deputy, Andrew McCabe, that the program was a useless waste of taxpayer money that needlessly infringed American civil liberties, but his bosses refused to take action. Retired Special Agent Bassam Youssef ran the FBI's Communications Analysis Unit from late 2004 until his retirement in late 2014. He told Just the News he fears the deeply flawed program, which was started in response to the September 11th attacks, was allowed to keep going to give Americans a false sense of security in the war on terror and possibly to enable inappropriate spying, such as that which targeted President Trump's 2016 campaign. Quote, I have no doubt, or very little doubt, that it was used for political spying or political espionage, end quote. He said during a lengthy interview for the John Solomon Reports podcast, which he links to. Youssef confirmed that the FBI performed an audit of the highly classified program, also known as the NSA program because it searched call records captured by the National Security Agency after Edward Snowden leaked its existence. The audit showed that while the program had generated 2 moderate leads for counterterrorism cases, it had not helped thwart dozens of terrorism attacks, as officials had claimed, despite costing tens of millions of dollars every year. In fact, the program was generating large numbers of false negatives and false positives, he said. The audit, he added, also showed there was collateral damage in terms of civil liberties of Americans whose phone records were unnecessarily searched or who were falsely identified as connected to terrorism. Youssef said he discussed the concerns with McCabe, both when McCabe served as assistant director for counterterrorism and then when he was promoted to acting executive assistant director, the number 3 job in the Bureau. But his efforts to pause the program and reform it so it could work better, cost less, and infringe less on Americans' privacy fell on deaf ears, he said. When McCabe was acting executive assistant director, I explained to him again the model that I was looking to establish and to let him know that we were not really getting good support from this program and that maybe we should reconsider this whole thing unless we can retweak it. And I remember he was so adamant about, we need the program. We're keeping it as this even though we're not getting anything out of it. Asked why the FBI would keep a program that was not producing any terrorism leads, Youssef said, it was a way to say, it's an insurance policy to show that we're doing everything we can, when in fact it wasn't giving us anything of what we hoped we would get. FBI and DOJ declined comment on Wednesday. Lawyers for Comey and McCabe also did not respond to requests for comment. Youssef said that in September 2014, shortly before he retired, he was invited to brief Comey privately about his concerns in the director's office. It was a very lengthy briefing, he said. He was very interactive. He asked very good questions, and after I explained everything to him, his only concern was not that we should shut it down or that we should change it so that we can protect civil liberties. His concern was, do you have a problem or concerns with the statutory authority? Youssef recalls explaining that while he had no reservations about the legal authority of the surveillance, which had to be approved by FISA court judges, he had serious concerns about both the waste of human resources inherent in the hundreds of thousands of agent hours in the field, lost to the labor-intensive program, and the threat that the program posed to civil liberties. Unless we change it to a different model, he says, telling Comey, we're going to continue to get many false positives and false negatives, and you can imagine with the false positive, we would be knocking on people's doors. who have nothing to do with any kind of terrorism act. Yosef said he had no doubt whatsoever that McCabe and Comey understood the severity of the problems. I gave them the full Monty brief, he said. I explained everything to them. They were fully briefed on the program. Yosef first publicly raised concerns about the warrantless spying program during a 2018 interview with me at The Hill, but his comments Wednesday went much further, prompted by the release of a White House Civil Liberties Board report that showed the same problems Yosef flagged in 2014 to Comey and McCabe persisted for nearly 5 more years. Yosef was one of the FBI's early counterterrorism success stories, working on major cases like the World Trade Center bombing and the Khobar Tower bombings, and singled out for praise by former director Louis Freeh. But after the September 11, 2001 attacks, he was sidelined in a human resources dispute with bosses, sued the FBI, and eventually was restored as a supervisor running the CAU unit that oversaw the warrantless spying program. Again, so let's get him out of here. This guy's questioning too much. Lawsuit, no, he has to go back on his watch. Oh, okay. The New York Times reported Wednesday that even after the Obama-era audit flagged serious concerns, the FBI kept operating the program until President Trump shut it down in 2019. Between 2015 and 2019, the program only generated 2 more leads, the newspaper reported, citing the White House report. That's probably what grieves me more than anything, Yosef said. Here we have a program that was not doing what it should. It was leaked, and the Obama administration very quickly appointed a Privacy and Civil Liberties Board to look into it, and we were mandated to give, we called it the options paper. And so my option was really the one that would give us the best intelligence at the lowest cost while minimizing the false positive and false negative intelligence. And so it makes perfect sense that this would be adopted, and yet the director basically didn't do anything with it. Yosef said he had developed deep concerns since his retirement that the NSA program may have been abused, like the FISA warrants, during the Russia collusion probe of the Trump campaign that included a highly flawed FISA warrant against Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Which again, all of those warrants are now null and void. They never should have been issued. FBI said, yep, it was wrong, blah, 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 blah. Oh, too late now. There is no doubt in my mind now, looking at the backdrop and the information that has come up since 2016 in the media, that the abuses were rampant, he said. And not just for FISA process, the FISA program, but for other programs that were used to spy on the Trump campaign. That, to me, is almost the obvious conclusion of what I've seen. There is a high probability that that program was used to handpick selected targets, targeted numbers, for purposes other than fighting terrorism. It's kind of a mirror image of the FISA abuses on Carter Page. As you know, it came out much later that the FISA process was for counterintelligence and counterterrorism purposes only. That was not what they used it for on Carter Page. And so it's sort of the same type of situation with this other program. I have no doubt, or very little doubt, that it was used for political spying or political espionage. You know, this guy, he was the Communications Analysis Unit guy from 2004 for 10 years to 2014. Now, of course, he was doing stuff prior to that, but that was his position from 2004 until he retired in 2014. So, if he was still working there, do you think he would have been able to come out under Obama as a whistleblower? He would have been killed. He'd have been killed or thrown into jail. They'd have made up something on him. See you later. Just like they did General Flynn, and like they've done many other people, including, yes, I'll say it, Roger Stone. And the top juror of Roger Stone's trial, massively biased against Trump, Roger Stone, etc. Posting stuff on Twitter. I mean, unbelievable. And I remember what Q said. Certainly you don't think we would go to the court system to go after these people, do you? Military tribunals, how about that? because we can't afford for them to be found not guilty. Well, we selected some random jurors. They were randomly selected by the system, and they found this guy not guilty and not guilty and not guilty. All the bad deep state actors not guilty, you know? Kind of like the Rodney King beating in California all those years ago in the 90s. All the officers on videotape, guys handcuffed on the ground, practically dying. They're beating his ass over and over and over again. He's not even trying to fight. It's all on video. Not guilty. Not guilty. Not guilty. Oh, hey, it was your own peers. A jury of your peers, people, settle down. Found these officers not guilty. You think for 1 minute they can't rig the jury selection? And that's why Q had said, surely you don't think we're going to that crap. Absolutely not. So, here we are about to be in March. April, May, June, July. We're getting close to November. I expect fully, as I have been for the last 2 or 3 years, we get closer to this election, the re-election of Donald Trump. The more you'll see come out, the more deep state actors will come out. We'll all understand what's happening, and then some arrests will start happening. Just in time for the epic political ad campaigns. James Comey, arrested. Baker, arrested. John Brennan, deep state, arrested. They're going to use this to Trump's advantage. Again, he's going to win by numbers I personally think will be one for the record books. Who's going to go against him in the Democratic Party? Who's Bernie Sanders, the socialist. He's leading the polls on the Democratic side. That's the guy? He's not even a Democrat. He's an independent. Oh, there's a lawsuit filed. Breaking news, lawsuit filed in Florida. I think it's Florida. Against Bernie Sanders. He's running an illegal campaign. He's supposed to be an independent, clearly, and he's saying he's a Democrat, and we want to take him off the ballot in Florida. Whatever. It doesn't even matter. I just hope we have the voter ID thing in place before 2020, the elections this year. I haven't heard much about it. Certainly doesn't seem like anything's happening right now. And maybe that'll be something they do later on, after he's reelected. Like, he doesn't really need to count on it. And if we don't have voter ID, then I still expect the Democrats to try to rig and fake votes and fill in the mail-in ones, big stacks of them like they did in Palm Beach County and whatever, Broward County in Florida. And obviously, if they're doing it here, where else were they doing it? So anyways, that's my 2 cents, and that's it. Take care.